Hey guys, I'm Chris, your real estate problem solver. So do you or somebody that you know ever been a victim of some kind of a real estate scam? If you're in the United States, you probably have been aware of somebody that's been involved with one. Well, in this video, we're going to go over 3 of the most common scams and how to avoid them and how to protect yourself from being a victim of them. And stay tuned to the end because I got a little bonus tip to help you with another kind of scam. So the scams that we're going to be talking over are just the tip of the iceberg. So listen to these scams, and if you have anything to contribute, make sure to put a comment down below, add to what I'm saying, and help the rest of the viewers be a little bit more prepared to make sure that we don't get scammed ourselves. Now on with the show. All right, so the first scam that we're going to talk about in real estate is going to be the foreclosure scam. Now, unfortunately, everything in life happens for a reason, is my belief. And if you find yourself in some kind of a foreclosure, well, then there's probably a reason. But what's even worse is when you're scared, you don't know what's going on, and somebody comes to you or contacts you and says that they will be willing to help you out of your foreclosure. So one part of this is where somebody contacts you as a homeowner and says that they will, for a fee, they will get you out of this foreclosure and let you get on with your life. Now, once they convince you to make these payments up front to save you from foreclosure, of course, then they take that money in the run and they don't save you from anything, and you still end up losing your house. Another part of the foreclosure scam might be a different scenario. Let's say somebody comes in and they offer to loan you the money to reinstate the loan, get your loan back on standings, and then you pay them maybe a little bit inflated price to pay them back with interest and then also pay the mortgage. Now, there are variations to this, but all in all, basically, they're going to want you to sign over the house temporarily in order for you to make payments to them so they can make payments to the mortgage company. And what ends up happening is they become a part owner of the house. They file bankruptcy. And then once they file bankruptcy, that temporarily puts a hold on the foreclosure process. So they can keep taking payments from you and pocketing it, all the while they're not making any mortgage payments to your loan. And then once they finally get through all the red tape and they finally do make a play for foreclosing on the house, you get with the bank and find out that over the last 6, 7, 8 months, nobody's been making a payment. You've been making a payment to the scammer, and the scammer's long gone. Now, there is a little bit of a variation to the foreclosure scam, which is where they say that they'll do some kind of a wrap loan. They'll lend you the money. They'll wrap it around the loan that you've already got, but still, you're put in a position where you have to sign part of the part ownership of the house to them, and they end up not making any payments to the mortgage company. You make payments to them, they pocket all the money, and then they disappear. Now, to be honest with the foreclosure scams, there's a little bit of a double-edged sword here because we're in Georgia. So a foreclosure, I buy houses in foreclosure, and I know a lot of investors that do. Now, saving somebody in a foreclosure is a legitimate operation and a legitimate offer to help homeowners who are in trouble. And the scams, although they are, in essence, they're screwing somebody over, they're still under the same kind of a structure. So it's kind of hard to tell the difference from the scammers from the legit real estate professionals. So listen to this. This is going to be how you tell the difference. Number one, I'm being a professional. I'm the real estate problem solver. You can look me up. You can find me anywhere. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me online. So you can find me on YouTube, obviously. So you're going to be able to find some background on me and who I really am, and you know I'm legit. Second of all, I'm going to be transparent. Everything pertaining to the transaction, or everything pertaining to what we come up with as a team to solve the problem that you have, we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to be completely transparent. You're going to ask questions, I'm going to give you direct answers. Third of all, I'm going to insist on a lot of paperwork. We're going to have paperwork for if we buy the house, the purchase agreement. If we have to work with the lender, we're going to have paperwork that shows that you gave me permission and you signed permission to let me talk to the bank or talk to the insurance. And then third, most importantly, we're going to a closing attorney. So you're going to have a third party, unbiased party, looking over the paperwork and telling you for the umpteenth time, do you understand this is a real estate professional you're working with? Yes. Do you understand that they are, if we're buying the house, do you understand that they are buying the house to make a living, to make a profit? Yes. So somebody else is going to be going over the same things and making sure that you understand and you're very clear on exactly what is transpiring with this event. Now, one more little tidbit, just so you know. In Georgia, now I don't know if this is for the rest of the states, but I know in Georgia, and I've talked to my attorney about this and he confirmed it. When you have a closing with an attorney, there are a certain level of loyalties that the attorney has to go by. If things go sideways or if anything is disputed, the attorney is obligated to represent the lender first. So if there's a mortgage involved, they represent the lender. Second is the buyer. If there's any disputes going on, the attorney automatically represents the buyer. No matter who pays for the closing costs, no matter who pays the attorney, the buyer is still represented right under the lender. If there's no lender, then the buyer's first. Last would be the seller. Just a little bonus information for you. Take that and put it in your back pocket for later. All right, so now that we've discussed foreclosure scams, let's talk about how to avoid them. Like I said, a legitimate professional is going to have paperwork. A scammer's probably not. A legitimate professional is going to want to go to a closing attorney and have a legitimate closing. A scammer probably will not. Usually a scammer is going to give you a lot of double talk. They're not going to give you a straight answer, and they're going to be vague. And they're probably going to want to rush you to make a decision quick. If they're trying to push you into something that you don't understand, stop, walk away, don't do anything. You can always go back later, okay? Now, granted, Georgia foreclosures have a time limit of about 4 to 5 weeks, depending on when you get your notice of default. But that's why in all my videos pertaining to foreclosures, I tell you, get busy on it right away because you don't have much time. But if you stay on top of it, you can exhaust all your options. We can exercise whatever might or might not work and come up with a solution that best fits your situation. All right, so one of my favorite scams is the all-famous wire fraud. So we just had a seller that we listed their house and we sold her house. And while we were selling her house, her company actually got hit by wire fraud. They had email communications between them and another company, and a scammer intercepted the communications and sent back fraudulent information with a fraudulent account information. And just like that, they transferred the funds to the wrong account, and $500,000 disappeared without a trace. So, with that being said, make sure that when you're setting up a wire transfer to your closing attorney, because in Georgia we use closing attorneys, make sure that you talk to them over the phone. Make sure if they're going to email it to you that you're talking to them so you can confirm that the email that you're receiving is from them. Or if you've got to go to the bank, make sure that you talk to the bank and actually get the wire instructions from them on a piece of paper or something like that, So it reduces the chance for a scammer to intercept that information and commit that little bait and switch. Now, we've got a lot of military people in this town, so unfortunately, a lot of military, they will buy houses sight unseen, and you know who you are. So, all right, it's a little bit risky, but if you're willing to take that chance, then that's fine. But with the closing attorney, if you're going to be closing on that house sight unseen, that means the attorney is going to be mailing you the closing papers. Do extra homework, make extra phone calls, confirm. You may irritate a few people, but you know what? They'll get over it, okay? Which would you rather do? Irritate a few people or lose $20,000 or $30,000? All right, so this next one is going to be a little less common, but if somebody actually pulls it off on you, they really worked you over. So the next one is title fraud. Now, what happens with title fraud is the scammer will create, of course, they're going to research the house and they're going to know what it is that they're looking at and what their specs are. But what they're going to do is they're going to create fraudulent documentation and make it look like they own the house. Now, how are they going to do that in Georgia? Well, in Georgia, the most common documents that are recorded at the county courthouse is going to be the warranty deed, or a quit claim deed, and the security deed, which comes from the mortgage company. So what they're most likely going to do is they're going to fraudulently create a warranty deed and fraudulently put your signature on it to make it look like you gave them the house. So now all they have to do is just take possession and either refinance the house and get as much money as they can out of it and take off, or try to sell the house. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, how am they going to pull that off when I'm living in the house? Well, not all fraudulent title documents are going to be owner-occupied houses. If you've got a second home or a vacation home and you're not visiting it very often, then they only need a month or two to pull this off. Especially if they sell it at a discount, then they can sell it to an investor or sell it to some unsuspecting buyer that has cash, and they think they're getting a good deal when actually they're getting nothing at all. Now, the other part of the title fraud scam is if they want to try to sell the house at full retail and make it look like a legitimate sale, they can go so far as to list it with an agent, and an agent's not really required to do any research, so they may not even know. But if the title is recorded at the courthouse and they put it on the market, and let's say you get a buyer for FHA financing. Well, FHA financing requires 90 days from the last transaction, last purchase, to the closing of the next person that buys the house. Yeah, I know it because we're going through one with a rehab that we just did, and we've had the house in our possession for less than 90 days. So we have to wait 90 days before FHA will lend the money to the buyer to buy our house. And a scam artist is going to already know that. So they're going to go ahead and record that fraudulent document in the courthouse, and they're going to go ahead and put it on the market with the contingency that they know they're going to have to stall for 90 days. They can't do that if you're living in the house, because eventually you're going to notice that people are driving by the house. They're going to know that you're going to realize that there's a realtor that's knocking on the door every half hour. So it's not going to be too easy. But a vacant house that isn't visited very often, that's going to be the one that they're going to be targeting. So how do you fix this yourself? Well, first of all, if you have a house that doesn't have anybody living in it, you're not using it very much, if you don't really need it or have any real purpose for it, go ahead and put it on the market and sell it. I know it may be a family house, but do you want to have a family house that's taken out from under you by a scammer? Or would you rather go ahead and cash in that house and put it towards something that will be used on a regular basis? Second part is, if you want to make sure to stay out of this kind of a situation, make sure to visit the house on a regular basis. If you're going over there every 2 or 3 months, then you'll at least have a better chance of catching somebody doing something like that. And then third of all, 1, 2, 3, yeah. Third, yeah. So third of all, get to know the neighbors around that house. If you've got some friends or people that you trust in that area, make sure to contact them and have them keep an eye on the house and let you know if there's anything fraudulent going on. Well, anything suspicious. I mean, you can determine if it's fraudulent later on. But if they see a bunch of cars pulling up in the driveway and they know that you're not currently living there, then they will be happy, should be happy, to let you know what's going on, and then you report back to them what happened. Because communities, believe it or not, they like to know what's going on with their neighbors, not only for the neighborly factor, but they also want to know that they're safe too. All right, guys, so that's the big list of the scams that are going on in real estate, and unfortunately, they are increasing every year. So make sure to be extra vigilant. I hope this helps you guys. And I still owe you a bonus, don't I? All right, so the bonus scam that is probably the most common, and it's usually a matter of bad business and miscommunication, is the contractor scam. Now, some people do it intentionally, some people do it without meaning to, but the fact of the matter is, when you're doing anything that pertains to using a contractor, there's usually a set agreement before you start on what kind of work that they're doing, how long it should take, how much you're going to pay them for that work, and if there's a schedule and when that schedule is for them to get paid. Now, the scam usually comes in where they tell you, oh, well, you know, I know you want to wait until Friday to pay me for whatever work that I've done, but I've got to go buy building materials, and I got to buy this and I got to buy that to get started, so I'm going to need $1,500, I'm going to need $2,000, I'm going to need $3,000 to get started, and then you could pay me for my labor on Friday. Yeah, okay, well, I've done that too before, and I paid them $2,000-$3,000, and then come Friday, they weren't nowhere around, and they hadn't even started on the job. Or they started doing a bunch of trash work and got a little bit more of a payment on Friday, but after Friday they were gone. So here's how you fix that. If you're going to be working with a contractor, put your foot down. Your money is worth more than their labor. You can find somebody else. As a matter of fact, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot or any building supply at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the real workers are already there getting their stuff for the day. So those are your serious workers. That would be a good way to find one that you can trust. Now, as for the payment schedule, what I do when I first started working with my contractors was I told them, you give me a list of what you need, and I will send a punch list to the builder supply, and you can just pick it up. I'll pay for it, you just pick it up. That way they can't get my credit card number. That way the money is going towards the building materials, and that way they can't, you know, buy any extra stuff and try to charge me for it. I've had contractors that bought extra nails for another job. They bought plumbing supplies for another job. They bought jackets and pants because, you know, some building supplies are offering the heavy-duty clothing in their shops now. So this way I can tell them I want A, B, and C, and that's what you're going to pick up and no more. And then I can keep track of when I go to the job site, I can say, okay, I see A, I see B, I see C. So those are the three things that I paid for, and I know they're here, so that means they're getting put on the job. Then Friday, I give them a percentage of whatever work that they did. If they did 10% of the job, I pay them 10%. If they did 50% of the job, I pay them 50%. But then also, make sure that you do not give them that last chunk of change until after you've worked through the project and you've looked at everything and you made sure that everything that is on that work list, on that scope of work, has been completed to the satisfaction that it needs to be. Especially if there's a building inspector involved. You want to make sure that everything is right before that building inspector comes, because they can be kind of nasty. And if they didn't do it right, you want to hold that money back. That's the only incentive you've got to get them to come back and finish the job. Otherwise, you make that last payment to them, they're gone. And they could come back and try to demand more money, saying that you never finished paying them. So when you do give them that last payment, you make sure that they sign something acknowledging that that is the final payment for this project. So if you work with contractors and you've gotten scammed by contractors, I hope this information helps you. So like I said, if you guys have got any other scams or any information on how to make sure to stay away from getting victimized, make sure to put the comments in the below. I'm Chris, your real estate problem solver, and if you need any help with anything real estate related in the Middle Georgia area, make sure to contact me, and I'll talk to you on the next video.